Well, welcome everybody. Good morning. My name is Dr. George Sparks. I'm the host of Biblical Archaeology from the Ground Down, sponsored by Bible Interact. Today I got a very special guest, Dr. Professor, I should say, Emeritus Rami Arav. Now, before we get started, I want to do a proper introduction. Now, I got a lengthy introduction here. I looked it all up. So I don't know if there's going to be anything left for the podcast after I do this introduction, but I'm going to give it a try. All right. So, Professor Emeritus Dr. Rami Arav holds a BA and MA from Tel Aviv University and a PhD from New York University in Near Eastern Languages and Literature. Dr. Arav has directed numerous archaeological excavations since 1987. He has been the director of the Bethsaida Excavation Project, headed at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. He has been the director of a consortium consisting of 30 scholars from 18 universities and colleges worldwide. Dr. Arav was also the director of the John and Carol Merle expedition to the Cave of Letters. Dr. Arav has published extensively in both scientific and popular literature on archaeology and the history of the land of Israel and of Bethsaida in particular. His latest books are Bethsaida, a city by the northern shores of the Sea of Galilee, volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4, in a series of 5 books. He has also co-authored and co-edited Jesus and His World, an archaeological and cultural dictionary, also co-authored Cities Throughout the Looking Glass. And I'm sure that's just to name a few. Dr. Arav taught in the Department of Philosophy and Religion and the Department of History at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Professor Emeritus Arav was recognized by the Mayor Pompey with a presentation of the emblem of the city for his archaeological work on the Bethsaida excavation project. And lately I found out that he also was honored very prestigious Great Award at Fishrith, a book that is written by other scholars in honor of Dr. Rami Arav, titled And They Came to Bethsaida. Dr. Rami Arav, thank you for being on the program. Welcome.
Thank you very much for this introduction. Thank you.
Sure. We're going to talk today about ancient Israel and the origins of ancient Israel. That sounds like a very interesting topic, and I'm sure we're going to learn something today.
The first question is, why should we actually deal with this topic? This topic has been in scholarship since 150 years or even more. But the origin of the Israelites, or the ancient Israel, in the Bible, and those who would want to know what's the origin of Israel, all what they have to do is just open up the Bible and to read it, and that is all. But we have realized that the Bible doesn't tell exactly what happened. It is more what we would call today a collective memory of the Israelites than a book of history. So, as a collective memory, it's not always accurate, and it aims to tell the audience this is how we want to be remembered, or this is how we should remember our ancestors. It doesn't mean that exactly the ancestors did exactly what was there word by word, but this is how they would like to be remembered, or this is how the authors of this text wanted us to remember them. It is similar. We have it everywhere. I mean, collective memory is something that has been offered by sociologists in the 1930s, and since then it's been capturing and historians and biblical scholars alike. And it is even, you can go even very recent history to see how collective memory works. For example, we all know the story of George Washington and the cherry tree, correct, right? Everybody knows that. But the story never happened, history. It never happened. There was no such a story. It is a made-up history about George Washington for one purpose, in order to tell us that presidents do not lie to their people. So, yeah, we think about it today, right? George Washington Cherry Tree is example of being honest with the people. This is collective memory. We all remember it, but it never happened. And so many other things. So the Bible is the same thing. It also has stories that they want us to remember. That is how we want them to remember, but it's not true. It's not exactly so. So I will give you just one example. For instance, in the book of Genesis, Abraham tells his servant Eliezer to go to the city of Haran and to pick up a woman from his clan that would be the wife of his son Isaac. And this is not an easy task because she was supposed to be the matriarch of the people, the matriarch of the nation. And as Abraham, Isaac, and later on their son Jacob would be the patriarchs of the nation. So she's supposed to be something special, something unique, something that is you don't find among every girl. So Eliezer went on his way, loaded with gifts, and then with and 10 camels. It was a caravan of 10 camels loaded with gifts. And on his way, he says to God, "How would I know who to pick up for Isaac? This is a very serious job." And God tells him, "Don't worry about it. I will take care of it. All what you need to do is to send in the entrance to the city of Haran, near the well, and the girl that will come and see you and will tell you, I will water you and your 10 camels. This is the girl that you're gonna pick up." And those who we don't we cannot really appreciate what does it mean to water 10 camels today, but in the ancient times when camels were about, where people knew exactly what does it mean. It means this: every camel can drink about 45 gallons of water. So if you want to water 10 camels, you have to draw from a deep well about half a ton of water. It needs a very, very strong woman, right? And strong woman that fits. That would be it. And indeed, that would happen, and the rest is history. Now the question is, did it really happen? The answer is most probably not the way it was told. Most probably it is a collective memory. Why? Because this story was supposed to be told in about the 22nd, 21st century BCE, but camels were not domesticated before the 10th century BC. So camels, you have to take camels out of the story. This is one thing. The second thing, whales were not dug before the 10th century BC. So you have to take the whales also out of the story. And the city of Haran was not founded before the 19th century BC. So you have to take the city of Haran. And the Arameans that were there were not known before the 14th, 13th century BC. You have to take the Arameans. So you're left actually with nothing in the story because it's anachronistic. But what is true there? What is true is that the effort of the storyteller, sometime in the 10th, 9th, 8th centuries BCE, to tell us how special was Rebecca, how unusual she was, how she fits to be the matriarch of the nation. So this is what the author meant to do, and he didn't really care about details of history stuff. He probably didn't even know. So we cannot really go by the Bible, and we have to go to archaeology for that, and ancient history that are contemporary, not told centuries and centuries later on. So if we do that, in my contention, what we need to do is we have to go all the way back to about the 20th century BCE. And in the 20th century BCE, we see something very interesting. In fact, We see the end of the 23rd century. We see collapse of the early Bronze Age culture, which was urban, and in this period, big cities were built, and we see collapse of these urban centers, and instead of this, what we see is people run away from the cities, and they are nomads. And we see a period of nomads between the 23rd century to the 20th century. In the 19th century BCE, and we see a rebuild of the cities. We see cities coming up back again. And in addition to that, we see also big migration of people from northern part of Syria to the south. The northern part is the area of what is so-called Jabal Bishri. This is in the northern Syria. And the people who migrated from northern Syria to the south were the Amorites. So we see Amorites coming down to the southern part of the Levant and settled there and building up big cities later on in the 19th, 18th century. They would build up cities in this area. What is interesting about these Amorites is that one, that the Bible thinks that or tells us that the Amorites were the foes and enemies of the Israelites. All the way along in the Bible, the Israelites are commanded to inherit the Amorites, to destroy them and to kick them out from being in the southern Levant. This is how they looked at the Amorites. But we know a little bit about the Amorites. Recently, we even could read some documents that were written by the Amorites, and we know about their names and their political organization. And we found out that first of all, there were people that were called West Semitic, which means that they were very Northwest Semitic. They were very similar to the Israelites in their language. The Israelites spoke Hebrew, and Hebrew is Northwest Semitic language, together with the Amorites. Moreover, the Amorites had names that were very interesting type of names. They were names that were conjugation of verbs in third person future and in the future tense, third person, like he will do something. And we have or something will be done to him. It is a negative, like he will be doing something, or something will be done for him. And this we find these names among the Amorites, and one name is Yanak El, which means El will bestow upon this child all kind of good things, and so on. We have this conjugation over and over. And what is interesting is that the patriarchs had also names that were conjugated the same way, similar to the Amorites. For example, Yitzhak, Isaac, Yitzhak, is he will laugh. Oh, the Bible even says that he will laugh came from Sarah, who was very old, and she said, "Nah, I want to have a child," and she had a child. So, but he will laugh means he will laugh all along his life. He will not be sad. He will not be sorrow. There is no. He will laugh all his life long, and God will bestow him his. Yaakov is the same thing. He will follow. It is. We know also the full Amorite name is Yaakov El, which means he will follow El. And El is the chief god of the Amorites, or the Canaanites later on. And so we see that, and you have also Yosef. He will be added, or God will add years to him, and so on. We have several names like this in the Bible of the Hebrew origins that were conjugated and were very similar to the Amorites. This including also to the same language. It is driving us to conclusion that actually the ancient Israelites, were no others but these Amorites who came from the area of northern Syria, the area where Haran is actually. And when Abraham sends Eliezer to Haran, there is some recollection that these people came from northern part of Syria, the area of southern Turkey today, northern Syria. This is where they emerged, where they came down to the southern Levant. So we see this as origin of the Israelites as Amorites. So they were in cities, they built up cities, and from the 18th century we hear all this long. And then something happened to these cities. Cities, as we see it in the Bible, for instance, cities were not looked in a very positive way in the Bible. Um, Unlike the Babylonians, for instance, that think that the cities were bestowed or endowed by the gods lowered down to human cities. So cities are a gift of God. The Israelites did not think the same thing about cities. They thought very negatively about cities. How do we know that? The very first city was founded by Cain, the murder of his brother. So cities are connected with crime. And this is what the Bible thinks about cities. Cities is a place of crime. It is not a place to live. Jeremiah says, "Oh, I wish I went down to the desert and build a hotel and be far away from the city." Isaiah said, "I'll go out to the desert and pave the road and build the whole city from the scratch because it's all corrupt." Amos says, "Oh, it's corrupt all the way in the Bashan." And every prophet has complaints about the corruption and crime in cities. Cities were not looked in a very positive way, and there is perhaps a reason for that. Cities are indeed, from the sociological point of view, they create something that in, let's say, tribal organization, we don't find this. And this is a polarization between the haves and have-not. People in the city grow, they divide into wealthier people and the low-class people. And this wealth of the upper classes would go usually would grow bigger and bigger, and on account of the of people who have not, and they would get poorer and poorer. And we have some remains in this in the Bible, some references in the Bible. For instance, in the book of Nehemiah, after Nehemiah builds the city of Jerusalem and builds the surrounding area and stuff, people are coming complain to Nehemiah, and they say, "Listen, everything is fine, but one thing is bothers us. We were taking loans to sow the fields, to raise cattle, sheep, and goat." And there were droughts, and it was not successful. I mean, our fields did not yield the crops that we expected because of the drought. And now we owe money to our landlords and to our creditors, and we have to return it. And in this period of time, if you cannot return a loan, well, what you do, you enslave yourself to the landlord or to the creditor. So if they say, They complained. They said, we have to enslave our daughters, our sons to the creditors because we have no money to uh, to to pay them. So Nehemiah is doing something very interesting. He's uh, uh, canceling the loans and start the whole thing from the scratch. Like, I mean, that's it. No no loans anymore, no debts anymore. We'll start this from the scratch. There is, by the way, a whole theory about debts and sociology. And this is not something new or something that happened only today, but this also goes well in the past. In this period of time, there was no Chapter 11. Uh, you cannot declare bankruptcy. You had to return loans, or you had to enslave yourself. So people in from about several centuries, when this urbanization was functioning well, but slowly the gap between the haves and have not grew bigger and bigger. People had to do something about returning loans. They didn't have Nehemiah to cancel all the debts and all the loans. So, in order to avoid enslavement, what they did was simply running away. So there were dissidents who ran away from the cities to places that the creditor wouldn't be able to find them. Where are these places? Usually in the top of the mountains in the highlands of Judah, top of the mountains where there were forests, and the transportation was not easy. To find these people in the forests was not an easy thing. And in particular, these people who, all these dissidents who would run away to the forests, run away to the top of the cities, would cluster in small numbers, like, I mean, few families, about 100 people, 150 people in a site like this. And indeed, this is what archaeology found, that in about the 13th century, 14th, 13th century BC, we see these dissidents sites all along the Judean highland. And we call them uh, ancient Israelites because they looked as if they are these ancient Israelites or the region. And the reason also that we may identify them with Israelites is that in the end of the 13th century, an Egyptian pharaoh by the name of Mar-Neptah waged a military campaign to Judea and to Levant, and he among the places and among the people that he claimed to conquer, or to in his words is to annihilate, were the Israelites. He says, I killed all the Israelites. I didn't leave any single man there, no seeds to the Israelites. And this is in 1305, 2005, 2003 BCE. And we think that this is where he found them, in the highlands of Judea. So we have the Egyptian testimony about Israelites already settled in the highland of Judea in the end of the 13th century BC. We see these small settlements up there, and we simply put one and one together. We identify them as the ancient Israelites. They had also very, very unique type of a culture. In one hand side, they continue the Canaanite culture, but on the other hand side, they were extremely egalitarian societies. So very different from the people from the city dwellers of the Canaanites, in particularly in the more fertile zones of the country. These people kept a very egalitarian lifestyle. Archaeologists have found that almost in every house that they discovered, they find exactly the same thing that they find in their neighbors. So they look like there is no differences in status, no differences in lifestyle between the members of these people. And this is also one of the things that the Israelites would remember for eternity almost, that in the early, very early stage of their formation, they had a very egalitarian life. No different status. So these are the ancient Israelites. The people are also known as Chabiru or Apiru, and Chabiru may be also connected to the word Hebrews. Apiru is the Egyptian name, but the Egyptians were not Semitic, so they distorted what they heard. Chabiru, they distorted it to Apiru. But Chabiru is the Semitic name, and this is most probably connected to Hebrews. The question is, and the thing is that we knew about this Chabiru, and we knew about the settlements, and we knew about the Egyptian. But the question that was always asked was, how come dissidents were formed into ethnicity? Because one thing we know about the Israelites is that they are a unique ethnicity. They differentiate themselves from the Canaanites, and of course, they differentiate themselves from the Amorites, who were the early migration to this country, but and that were called Canaanites because Canaan is the purple dye that the Canaanites developed and made quite wealth with this trade of purple dye. So these Canaanites are in fact Amorites in origin, but we call them Canaanites. The Bible calls them Canaanites, and the Babylonians call them Canaanites, not the Egyptian, by the way. But these Amorite Canaanites later on, they were the origin of the country, or were the origin settlers who came from the northern Syria. And the question is how they developed into a different ethnicity, how these Israelites were formed uh, as ethnicity, because one thing we know about this Chabiru is that it is not ethnicity, it is a social phenomenon that was not only in the southern Levant, but actually it engulfed the entire Middle East. There were also Chabiru in Mesopotamia and also in northern Syria. They were all dissidents from cities who simply ran away from the creditors and build up their own settlements. And usually, what they did was harass the Canaanites and harass whoever passed by. Um, they were more or less similar to kind of, Robin Hood kind of of a group that would threaten the Canaanites, the city dwellers, and try to take whatever they can take from these guys and bring to their own homes.
Dr. Rav, I had a fantastic time.
Yeah.
Learned a lot, learned a lot.
Yes.
And
Yep.
then definitely this is going to be on the YouTube channel for Bible Interact. And it's going to
Good.
be far different than what we usually receive. Doctor, thanks for your time. You have a great day.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you for this. I enjoyed it very
This
much.
pleasure's mine.